Welcome to Design Everest. In our program today, we have Paul Asaro from Asaro Architecture, founder and CEO of the company. Welcome to the program, Paul. Before we jump into the conversation, tell us a little bit about your experience and where you're coming from.
Sure. I have 30 years experience as a licensed California architect. I graduated from Cal Berkeley, and since then I've designed projects all over the state of California, as well as Massachusetts, Texas, Florida, Mexico, and even Costa Rica.
You've been working a lot on certain fields, for example, how to build safe houses, especially in regards to wildfire as well. Let's talk about this topic, which is quite hot in California as well. What are the lessons you've learned throughout these years in regards to building a house that is safe for when a fire happens, and how we can improve that?
Well, what we specialize in what I like to call strategic design. And strategic design it's a solution-based system, and it's applied through the design of the built environment. And it counters all these natural and man-made disasters, such as wildfires and the problems that people have been coming up with all the EMF that we're bathed in on a daily basis in our built environment. And so there's all different kinds of solutions. We first identify what are the problems for the specific issues for a client, and then from that we're able to develop a solution to address those issues.
So how do you, for example, if I want to design a house in California, what should I consider? What are the elements that you're putting into your design that makes it safe?
Okay, well, let's say you're in a wildfire location, because we've been doing a lot of work the last few years rebuilding homes that have burnt down. And so there's many different design solutions, such as we need to address on a building the weak points in a wildfire. And the weak points of, let's say it's a home, the weak points are going to be the roof and the venting. And that venting can be underfloor, it can be at the eave. It's also the material on the outside of the home. Some materials are more resistant to fire than others. And then, of course, the windows become a weak point as well in a very hot fire. So the goal is you have to work synergistically to meet the specific requirements, and that includes the budget. So you can have some very elaborate design solutions or some very simple solutions. You can have an existing home that you want to just make more fire safe and without spending a lot of money, and that is definitely doable. Or let's say you're designing a new home and you want to make sure it's as fire resistant as possible. You can have a full range of budget options available in terms of how you address the issue of a wildfire. And the same applies for something like, let's say Wi-Fi in the home. Most of us, even those who are listening to this program right now, are probably in the middle of a Wi-Fi field. And let's say that you don't have Wi-Fi in your home. Let's say you have Ethernet. Even then, if you go to the Wi-Fi and you turn on the Wi-Fi search, you'll find all your neighbors will have their Wi-Fi items listed that are close by. And if they're listed on their computer, that means their Wi-Fi is reaching into your home, and you're getting that kind of electromagnetic energy that some people have a very adverse reaction to. I would say all of us do. It's just a matter of degrees. Some people are much more sensitive to it. And so there's a whole variety of solutions that you can apply in your home, such as just like what we have right now. We have Ethernet. We don't have Wi-Fi in our home because we have little children and we just don't want them exposed to the Wi-Fi frequencies. Everything is through a wired system in the home.
And doesn't stop there. Like a lot of people nowadays, like allergies are on the rise, and a lot of people are allergic to certain elements that are used in building houses. How do you go around that?
Then the specification of the material. So it's very important to look at paint, any kind of finish, flooring, very important. Even so, let's just touch on that. With paint, if you're sensitive, you don't want to have VOCs. Those are the toxic components of the paint that off gas over time. So you make sure that you use a non-VOC paint. It's going to be a little more expensive, but far less expensive than getting sick. So it's well worth it. And there's things like the flooring, carpeting versus wood versus tile. There's a whole range of solutions to whatever the person's health issues are, because it could also include somebody who, let's say, has trouble breathing. So then you may not want to have a mechanical heating and air system that's forced air, because you can get this dust in the air that's hard on the lungs. So maybe you go with radiant heating and cooling as an alternative to that. There's whatever the issue is, there's a solution to it.
It's really interesting, especially now that we are living in a pandemic time and the health issue is in the center of everyone's mind. How far we can go with this? Can we make a house pandemic proof?
Yeah, an air recuperation system can be very helpful to cleaning the air in a home. So I've used them for many years, because with an air recuperation system, it's very useful when you've got an energy efficient home, because an energy efficient home, imagine a thermos bottle. That's what makes a home energy efficient, is to seal it off from the outside, hot, whether it's hot or cold. The outside elements need to be sealed off from the inside, which immediately creates a problem on the inside with the air quality. So if you use an air recuperation system, it brings in the outside air, but it filters it, cleans it, puts it through HEPA filters, does all these wonderful things. So you have a nice, good, clean interior home environment. And at the same time, your home is very energy efficient.
One of the other aspects that came up during the pandemic, and people are thinking about it, is the climate change and the weather change that we are seeing around the world, and we are seeing quite severe weather disruptions. Is there any way to build a house that actually can resist this kind of, or at least to a certain level, resist this kind of disruptions?
Yes, and so even if you have an existing home, there's techniques that you can apply to your existing home to increase the what we call is the hardened building envelope. So what that means is the exterior of the home is more resistant to natural disasters. Let's say, we've touched on wildfires already. Let's say it's a hurricane. The similar design solutions apply for, let's say, a hurricane or civil unrest even. There's a wide variety of methods and means. So typically, you'll look at, is this going to be a stick-built home? If it is, then you want to do things that will improve the strength of a wood-framed home, because they're inherently weak. If it's going to be a steel-framed home, it's going to be much stronger. And so you still, though, have to deal with the issues of energy efficiency and sealing off that building envelope. Then there's the possibility of concrete homes. You could go with brick homes. The concrete is going to be the strongest building envelope you can have, and they tend to be more expensive. But if you utilize a system such as insulated concrete forms, it reduces the cost considerably. And if you have the local talent and expertise with your building contractors to build that type of a building, it's something you should really look at because it has many benefits. Besides energy efficiency, it's just so strong. And now you've got yourself a home that is geared for any kind of weather condition, except tornadoes. I don't know. The only way you're gonna really be able to deal with a tornado is to go underground. That's why there's tornado shelters, because they get way too strong. And the same would apply for a massive flood, like what happened to the poor people in Japan a number of years ago. You saw concrete buildings floating away. It was tragic. So again, you can only do so much. But if you do the best you can, then you are in a position to have a beautiful home, a great quality of life, and have the security of knowing you've done everything you can to have a safe environment for you and your family. So,
thank you so much, Paul. Paul Asaro from Asaro Architecture. It was quite useful and interesting conversation.
Thank you, Nikki. It's a pleasure.
Audio